Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. What do you know about the deaf experience?
So for me, it's going to be very different than a lot of other deaf individuals. I was not born deaf. I was, I think the term they call it is later deafened. So I became deaf as an adult. I learned to speak and had all the normal experiences through life. And then in my late 30s and early 40s is when I started losing hearing. And then had a sudden, like a stroke attack, and attacked my ear. And I lost all hearing in my other ear, which was my good ear. When I lost hearing then in both ears, I was deaf completely in both ears, and I couldn't hear at all for, it probably was about 5 or 6 months before I finally got my cochlear. So there's a process of having to go through audiologists and ENTs and getting all of that. So for about 5 or 6 months, the world was silent for me. I had not had any experience in my life being deaf. So I was raised in a hearing world and was very accustomed to a hearing world, and switching to a silent world was just not easy for me.
Are you sure you want to go to an all hearing school? It's not too late to back out if you think it might be too hard. Okay, well, it's not too late. I just worry that you might be feeling like you might get left out.
Have you ever known anyone dealing with deafness?
I have known a few people in my life. They've all been children, except my mom. So I grew up with a mom who was basically deaf. She's been deaf my whole life. She lost her hearing in her 30s. She wears hearing aids, but when she doesn't have her hearing aids on, she can't hear anything. So that was probably my biggest experience in life with someone else who was deaf. Yeah, so when we were kids, we would call our mom, and we would need something. We would have a question to ask her or something like that, and she wouldn't be able to hear us, or she would have to fix her hearing aids so she could hear better. It was just always an issue, and or it would beep really loud when she would put the phone near it, and it would just make obscene noises. So communication on the phone was always really hard for my mom.
Dear Diary, the first week of school was rough. People try to be nice, but that's just not how it always comes across. I wish people could understand how hard it is for me.
I immediately felt isolated and not able to communicate what I needed because I didn't understand what other people were saying to me, or I didn't understand what conversations they were having. Adults tend to be a little easier to navigate that with because they can sense that, oh, she doesn't understand what I said, or she didn't hear me. Kids are a lot less forgiving when it comes to that. They don't understand why you can't hear them, and so it would be my son standing behind me in the kitchen, and who I didn't even know was standing there saying, "Mommy, I need a drink," and I couldn't hear him, and so he thought I was ignoring him, and that was very saddening for me to have my son feeling like I was ignoring him, and I wasn't. I just couldn't hear him, and so that. It actually was probably the most depressing for me to know that or to feel like I couldn't be the mom that I wanted to be, that I was used to being when I couldn't hear. Now, I know there's all kinds of things that you can do if you're used to that, but I was not used to that. And so my world was just flipped upside down when I just suddenly couldn't hear.
on the deaf community as well as helping others in the deaf community?
Okay. I think one of my first things would be to reach out to some of your local agencies and groups that help the deaf community. So, and ask them, what can I do to volunteer? What can I do to help out? And then if you specifically know anyone who is deaf, definitely ask them what are things that are difficult in their life, and try to think of things that you could help them out in some way, whether it's coming up with devices that would help them, or showing them how to even use a phone that can possibly, change something for them. My son is really good at that. He will say, "Hey, Mom, did you know that you can do this on your phone? And I think that will help you with this situation, that you're struggling with." And that's really helpful from that standpoint. So I know your generation tends to have a lot better knowledge of technology and how technology can be used to help some of the things that we do struggle with in this when you're deaf, and that might be something that you guys would have could be more in tune to. So, but definitely reach out to different agencies in your local community and see what whether you could go into the schools and help kids that are deaf, because there's a lot of deaf kids in just normal hearing schools. So being able to go and even volunteer your time and just be a little assistant to help them with their day would probably be huge.
How can a hearing person help people that they know that they're deaf feel welcome?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. So some of my best friends, when I lost my hearing, rallied around me, and they would actually make a lot of jokes about me not hearing, but it made me, it didn't make me feel ostracized. It made me feel included. It made me feel still part of the group. And we would go to like an event, and my friend would sit next to me, and we would both be looking at this screen reader that I would have, and it would tell me what everyone around me was saying. And so it would just kind of, type it out on the screen. And it didn't always pick up what people were actually saying. And so I would kind of look at her like, is that what he just said? And she would say, no, that's not what he said. But that just made me feel completely included and part of the group. And we were still laughing and having our normal good time at an event that we would go to that otherwise would have been very difficult, because it was a very much an event that you needed to be able to hear what they were saying. It was, I think it was a retirement dinner or something. But you needed to be able to hear what they were saying to really feel included. And I don't know, my friends have always just really pulled me in and laughed with me and cried with me and kind of just gone through the whole gamut of emotions along with me. And I never felt alone through it.